man. Yeah. All right. Okay. This is making of. Real brief though, because we kind of know what's going on. I have read through the fifth episode of Corrosion of War Without End here. You have a ship in a bottle story. Again, the last one was on a planet, so this is the ship in a bottle story. It's mainly on a crashed ship. In the story, they established that, in the storybook, that the Regis Maximus was lost again and they have to go rescue it. And the Regis Maximus is abandoned out there somewhere. It is in the script that in the last one, the Regis Maximus made it to Cybertron. So this one takes place a little bit after that, those events, maybe, but not more than 2 weeks afterward. Also, because we had those two crewmen, we had Wreck-Gar and his buddies, and the 3 others get rescued in the last story. It's a little different in this story because they kind of address the vengeance and the crew again. However, it's not a deal breaker because what they talk about in here just clarifies what happened in the last episode. So I'm guessing that this episode takes place, it's just about a week later, and Prime assigns them to one of the Autobot starships. The vengeance has disappeared in the story. Again, the vengeance from the last story. So the other Prime has disappeared. The Galvatron has disappeared. He's not in it. And the Megatron isn't in it, I don't think, either. So they have to go and find the vengeance, which has disappeared. They send the ship, the Gambit. The name of the new ship is the Gambit. It's about the same size as the Vengeance. It's one of the middle ships they didn't mention because it's in there, the Gambit, and it crashes on the planet, and they have to fix it. Basically, the episode is them putting the ship back together. It involves Nightbeat, Wheeljack. I think Blaster has a cameo in the beginning, but I think it's on Cybertron. He's not on the planet. He might be on the planet, but I don't think he is. And they send a rescue crew after the crew. But their ship is about roughly the same size to like try and stop them. Same size as the Maxis, the other ship. It's clearly set. It's clearly not set as far apart as episodes 3 and 4 were. 3 and 4 were several weeks apart. This is clearly like recent. Other stuff has happened to them. They've crashed on a planet. Maybe they've crashed on Earth. But then you could have like be an atmosphere, and it would match some of that footage with the spaceships crashed on a dusty planet. It wouldn't be Venus; it would melt. It could be Earth. There was apparently an epic space battle we didn't see off camera. But yeah, in this version, Regis Maximus is still being repaired, so it's not there. And they've taken another ship out into space to go on another mission. It's not a transformer; it's just a ship. And we have, battle footage to match that. That was from a video game, several video games. We also have, and Nightbeat is figuring things out, and Alicom is the main character in it too. And she has kind of a talk with Night Racer. So does Prime. They continue the idea that Dragonus Prime has become a pacifist in a sense, trying to redeem himself. It's not working too well. Trapped on the planet, they got to escape. So basically, in a nutshell, that's story 5. It's about getting off a planet that they've trapped on. There's more dialogue on the crushed ship. So it's kind of like the station story, but it's on a planet. It's kind of like the planet story too. A wrecked ship on a planet where they can't go outside. So it's indoors. So it's topical again. We can go outside a little bit, but come back in. But no, we're not going to film outside. Yeah. And yeah, it's not as wordy as the other one was. I don't regret the hour and 13 minute last episode. I think that's awesome. It's a director's cut. It's the only cut. There isn't a longer version of it. Yeah, I would be in terms of script and story, I would be one of those producer directors guilty of adding extra stuff that I just liked and not following. Okay, it has to be 45 minutes exactly. 50 minutes and with commercials. I would just have it go on longer than aired on television until it shows the rest. But yeah, so yeah, this is YouTube videos are going up on YouTube, so they don't necessarily need to follow like story airing guidelines. If I want to make it 42 minutes or an hour, I mean an hour. But if I want to tell the whole story, you're probably wondering as well as why the briefly as well as why well we did introduce that other ship and the other Megatron and kind of embellished on some scenes for the first 22 minutes that made it longer. But I think without those scenes, it wouldn't make sense where they end up. And the scenes at the end where they mention the gender of Transformers and we're the same species and all that, which I embellished on a little bit too for the story, is in the script. I just made it more punchy because it's been 20 years since the initial story and they were kind of behaving in a way to address environmentalists and gender politics and things like that from the late 90s and the early 2000s. And I thought it'd be more fun to kind of embellish on that and say, well, it's 2020. And it didn't change too much. I added like maybe 5 minutes of that. But yeah, it was, so we're going to go on again. Yeah, that's the making of. So note in the story that this whole thing, even them watching the view screen, they're in the Gambit. They're on the ship, the Gambit, the whole time. The Prime is just telling them about that while he's on the ship. So yeah, they're on a spaceship headed to the star system. They're in deep space. They have left Cybertron from the very beginning, so that we can do this other scene, which has no transition after this. On page 200. Yeah, note that. 200 pages into the story. I just thought I'd mention that. 200 pages. Literally on page 5 here, about 5 pages in, and into this story. And we cut to Punch and Grotesque next. But I'm gonna go to a scene explaining a little bit as to like the earlier Gambit thing. Apparently they're on the Gambit the whole time. So maybe that Prime Draconis footage was earlier, but that's confusing. So I'm going to clear that up right here while they're still there. Yeah, so this is a little bit explaining it. Yeah, so the scout ship is heading for Cybertron. Now, I'm going to jump ahead. But I want you to put the jump ahead scene right after this instead of where it is in the script. So on 210, we jump ahead to when they get to Cybertron. They jump there. And I want that chronologically to be right there because then they can explain the other stuff. They're the scout crew. Yeah, they're arriving. Yeah, so that's that. 214, not 210. Here, 214. We're cutting because the set. It's right there. There, oh Primus, isn't that ever beautiful? Home sweet Regis Maximus. We're just gonna do all of the. I guess we're gonna, like we did in the last episode, we're gonna do all of these guys' scenes. I'm actually gonna put this guy on the bridge with him. He's gonna go with him to the planet to help them. Roundabout, why? The end of that sketch ends there, and then they start with the anti-gravity pods on the bridge of the ship, having nothing to do with these guys. There's no transition. It's literally a flashing light, no transition. So yeah, this is just them. Page 236. Page 236. There, and hail them. That's easy enough to remember. Okay, 42. 242. Near the end. We're doing all these guys' scenes, basically.
Yeah, kind of like we did in part 4. And it makes sense. It's going to make sense in the script. Okay, Wednesday the 15th. No making of footage, really. This is the Gambit bridge. The bridge of the Gambit. And then it's going to be the bridge of the other ship. So, yeah. That's why those other panels are up there. Don't want to show too much of it. So let's just immediately start going. Okay, this is another scene in the movie. This is on page 228, quite a bit later. This is when Prime on the ship, not Air Flight, Prime on the ship, orders the others to fight. It's not Wheeljack in this case. It's going to be that guy. And, yeah. So, and maybe that guy. But engineering, yeah, it's switched around in the ship. So I think you're going to put engineering over here. And I don't want over there. So, yeah, the idea is that well, it's an attack. This attack's going to happen. So they're going to be struck at. Now they're on the ship. So let's just go. And, yeah, that page 230... we're going to show a little bit of the battle, just like a page of, and that we're going on to do that, and that Night Racer is actually Bulkhead in this case. She's not there. It's the Bulkhead. Note that 233, 232, 233 is going to link us up to He Was a Plant. And near the end of the story, roughly 7 or 8 pages from the story, when they go after the plant. We already got footage of Prime saying he's going to fire on the ship. But what we got to have here is not Dragon Optimus doing the fighting, but rather this guy doing the fighting. So that's what this is. So we have line of sight on target 1. That's going to be this guy saying that. Action. I'll show the guy first. The 15th, real brief. I rambled yesterday about stuff that doesn't need to be in there. You can cut most of that out. Yeah, so this is just, yeah, Transformers movie stuff. I got that. Yeah. Discussed that before. Anyway, so here is, yeah, the final scene on the bridge set in the movie. However, this is one episode. It's just an episode. I'm going to go back and show the bridge set, the distressed bridge set of the other ship that's being distressed and being threatened. I thought that breaking it up between the Gambit and the Vengeance made more sense visually than having them, without transitions, just all be on the Vengeance trying to get the ship off the ground. It's more interesting. It makes more sense that there's 2 ships involved. There weren't initially, but that did, yeah, so change that. And having Prime fight Megatron and stuff like that, just a little bit from the view screen, it's fun. Also, we have Dragon Optimus on Vengeance, and as kind of like Riker. He's kind of behaving like Riker. He's the first officer. He's on the planet. He's like doing stuff on the away mission to free the ship, basically. This is what Riker would do if he was salvaging a ship, in Star Trek: The Next Generation. And the scene's typical of that. It's weird that he brings a whole crew there, including Kidbots, offspring bots, onto the ship on a dangerous mission. But they are robots, so they probably figure, well, they're probably safer with him, I guess. They probably aren't. But yeah, they're robots, so they don't really think about that kind of thing. But they will not become like Kenny's or become, it's a character from a Brandon cult thing. They'll not become like annoying, in other words. They'll become a Jar Jar Binks. They'll just be there. They hint at the weapon ship and that kind of thing. Which apparently, yeah, Punch and Wreck-Gar thought it was something else. The spy person on the ship. So their part where they knew there was another weapon on the ship is distressed Decepticon like thing that's on the ship running around like a monster. The Autobots know about it. Wreck-Gar and Pounce knew about it, but didn't tell this group that. So they didn't know about it until that one scene. So that makes it even creepier because you don't know what it is until it pops out. And then it's not as scary because yeah, it's clearly this clunky like tank gun thing that looks kind of like Shockwave, but at least it's kind of a cool twist. Even if some of them knew and should have reported it in the story but didn't. Anyway, so now we're gonna go back and do some other stuff with ship or bridge thing. Okay, just before we started the filming, there was a technobabble line about Ferris things in the atmosphere and still nothing, search for anomalies. And then they mention the anomaly. You kind of don't need it, but you kind of do. We don't really need Nightbeat's line saying we can wait. The magnetic scan thing is in there. So what we want is just Discbot's line, which was stamped over. There's a lot of ferric and silic material in on the surface. It's interfering with the scans. April 16th. It's not a pickup scene. We're still filming, so this is all the making of this. This is a conversation between Alicon and the detective guy, and yeah, basically. So let's take these out of the shot. Presuming he's actually still on the Griffin. I keep saying the Griffin. The Gambit. So this is still on the Gambit. And then he's going to leave. He's going to be on the Gambit during all the bridge scenes. And then he's going to come back near the end, because they do send a team out near the end. So yeah, he's on the Gambit. In action. Okay, Alicon in the story had gone to meet Prime. I'm not going to film that scene yet because that's later in a different part of the ship. But the same room, the interrogation room thing, that's where he interviews Misfire Tank. He still hasn't gone back to the Gambit, and there's no fighting going on. So it's before the battle scene. It's before he left. So he interviews Misfire Tank. And his interview of her is a little more like just a report. Because he knows she came from his ship. So I prayed about it too much. Not going to be on about it too much. No. As a quickie note, Backscatter and Gouge are characters from this story. They're not in it, but they are actually two characters from the actual Raw Power story. Just kept their names. Note that we are at page 220, so we're at the scene just before he's going to go back to the Griffith and talk to the one person and go back to the ship. Just so you know that. That's going to be right after this, apparently. Yeah, right around here, next page. Yeah, that earlier scene, yeah. But these guys are going to find him. Yeah. This scene concludes just the detective's role on the ship. He's gone back to the mothership with the body. He's going to go back to the mothership. Yeah. So note, slight change in the script, but you won't see it. Page 224. He turns to talk to Night Racer about the eval thing. There's no reason she wouldn't be there when it happened. So maybe he dismisses her, and then she sort of walks off to the side and talks to her. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, action. Okay, this is just a Lost Leader. This is just before these guys go in and they're going to leave the cargo bay. Okay, the other footage, Optimus, the Zombie Prime showed up, and he's got the Decepticon at bay, and he's fighting him. So they've gone over there. So we have to explain if the Decepticon fleet... I know Prime told them the Decepticon fleet's left. They don't know that yet, so they don't know where everybody's gone yet. I want to convey the necessity of the scene that the ship is going down. They have to get out of there. That's all. So maybe not necessarily the fleet's gone, but temporarily. So these two guys who end the shot, yeah, they can totally do that. Okay, this is B-roll footage for the evening. This is actually the final moments in the story. I skipped on ahead to the final moments just because I'm going to do the messed up kid bot scene. Yeah. They've come in, and we see the heroes have come in through the airlock. That's the first thing we see. We just see them. We don't see that yet. we get to their expressions. Like, oh no. Probably, okay, it's not in the script, but it should be. It's not in the script. I skipped to the very ending scene with the fight with the Decepticon robot thing that captured them, so that I could do that and have them escape, because otherwise they'd all be dead on the Vengeance. They're landing team. This is gonna give away later footage, but yeah, yeah, by the time you put the making reel together, you finish it anyway. This is the first day of shooting. This was of this one. It's the 14th. First day of shooting of part 5. Whole day shoot. Well, most of the day shoot. About 8 hours. So we have that done. And I wanted to show the Prime fight thing going on. Also the rival, the creature captured the kids. I thought of this, oddly enough, while I was at Target, the big Target store. I saw this clunky kitty version Shockwave and other two guys in TF Mag. Let's buy this guy. We gotta buy this guy. So put him in the movie. So he's the Decepticon spy that they put on the ship. It's gonna blow up everything. So they just didn't tell the other Autobots that they were gonna do that. They should have. But they didn't, because I guess it didn't occur to them. So, yeah, he blows up. And yes, and Zombie Prime shows up in a nod to the Zombie Prime from classic Transformers. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so the more fluid, this is making up. This was just a little later into the 5th episode. It's the ending scene. Decided to go back to the Vector Prime thing there to show kind of an ethereal thing as to what was going on. It's all something the Galvatron sees in his mind, but it's actually the dead Matrix, the Matrix Morta. He has the Decepticon Matrix, and he sees this vision while he's on the Autobot ship in the break or the infirmary or something. He was rescued apparently by the Gambit. That comes. We're gonna have to film that. That's in there earlier. There was a Decepticon they captured, and it's gonna be him instead of Darklight, which was in the other script. So they even though Megatron shot him, he didn't kill him. We don't know how the Kidbots got a hold of the Shockwave Tron thing. I'm thinking they found it. It's probably going to be a scene where they find it as a junk earlier. It's not central to the story. It's just sort of how it's a MacGuffin. That's a means to get them off the ship, which it was in the script. It was just the Decepticon spy. I thought it was kind of funny to make it like Pounce's death machine that he got a hold of. That's what it was all along. It's odd that he didn't tell the other Autobots he'd put the death machine on there earlier. What's going on is that he did it before the second rescue and didn't know what they were up to. Weeks earlier, this could have been the other time, before it was captured and then recaptured by the Decepticons. It could have been before that. It's not clear in the script when it was exactly, when Pounce would have done it. It was probably implied that he did it between this episode and the last one. That it was at some point he put the. I'm not sure why he would do that, but he did. But we find out what he's up to, and that if they just listened to him, then they would have left the ship alone and not gone on their mission at all. Like the whole thing is dependent on the other Prime having gone there to rescue the Prime. By adding the Prime scene where the reason they go is to rescue the Autobots that are on the ship, not the ship, which sets up the story better than Rob Powers did. He just had, they want to get the ship, to have a big ship, to have a big frickin' gun and have a big ship. Basically, in the rewrite, I made it more personal and had them go, their version, their leader from the last episode, because there were too many Primes in the story. He's immediately goes out, and in the opening scene, literally in the preview that they're watching, the preview from the Gambit bridge on the screen, in the preview, the other Prime and the other guy is on the ship. Megatron shows up on the ship, and he probably knows where the attack ship is and everything. He doesn't care, and he's on the ship, and he basically, him and Prime and Galvatron are there, and he basically shoots them, and he crushes Prime's matrix and walks away and does all this stuff, and does a nod to the Transformers in the movie. He gets to say, the infamous line, "I've waited an eternity for this. It's over, Prime." The funny thing about Transformers. So, B-roll footage, 8 o'clock, 15th April. And we are doing this scene with these guys over. So it doesn't matter what they were doing before. Check the B-roll footage and they're accurate. There are a little bit of screw-ups. That scene is just before 2:33, before they say target 1 is approaching, evasive. That's 2:33, just so you know. So as far as I know, this is where this ends, just before the slag maker. They go on the slag maker and they're on the bridge crew. This is that anyway. This is that scene. So I'm going to check that to make sure that nothing's wrong with it. I'm going to check that. So, action.
Now, normally, we wouldn't rush through the production of a typical episode in 2.5 to 3 days, but apparently the arrival of Dan yet again would have stifled production for at least 3 days. So we rushed we didn't rush. We went through all the scenes properly. They're all there. But we got done with this in a week instead of the usual 10 days, just to get it. So it's in the can. This is episode 5. Deals with Dragon Optimus's stuff. There isn't much in the way of making and bloopers either, because there weren't very many bloopers. We're getting near the end. We're at episode 5. We have 2 more. So I'm thinking with the stuff that was not filler, but rather fixing plot holes in the script, that it's going to be about 50 minutes as well. It's going to be a little longer than the 42 or 43 minutes it was in the script. 48 minutes in the script. It's going to be a little longer. It's not going to be an hour, though. So, and 5 and 6 are the epic finale battle thing. There were some changes from the script. I just mentioned the change from the script. None of the extra stuff that isn't necessary. Make the making of very short. The changes included the commander guy of the Vengeance being the future Optimus Prime, who was put on the ship later to take the ship to the planet to abandon it. And he warns him in the beginning of the story, I'm taking the ship here to abandon it. Don't come looking for me. Because he wanted Megatron's forces from his Liege Maximo thing, that his side of the universe, to not follow them to Cybertron and blow up Cybertron. If they knew about Cybertron, they might come there. So he was trying to prevent them from finding the ship. That's the whole point of the story. There was another commander in the story, though, and we changed that. The first officer was killed. Well, they found most of him. That was a scene in there. They didn't... it wasn't in the script, though. They just alluded to it, that the guy was dead. They had one of them say it later, that there was a dead guy that they found. I made it 2, just to make it more visually interesting. And the commander guy was the Prime guy. I also did a nod to the Dark Awakening episode of Transformers, and had that other Prime come back as sort of a pseudo-zombie, being controlled by his spark, but he was still dead. And he fights the Decepticon assassin at the end, which is kind of cool. And the Decepticon assassin was played by a brand new Transformer from the Transformers Cyberverse Bumblebee spinoff. It's more like a. It's yeah, and there's two little guys. There's a Ramjet and one other guy who we named Ramjet Rakshi, we made it a girl, and we named the other guy was Dead End. We named him after Spoil Sport, called him Sport, and we have these like child bots and little offspring bots. So the previous episode leads into this one because they've apparently, well, sort of pseudo-budded, sort of asexually reproduced, and they've created offspring bots on the ship. More like ice pirates than classic 80s movie than the pod people, and less like Godzilla and the Kennys, the Godzilla movies and the Gamera movies and the Kennys. More or less like that, and more like less like Heartbeeps, and definitely not at all like Mac and Me. Not like Jar Jar. They're not annoying. They're just there. They help the plot along, so they're considered MacGuffins, plot devices. That's the kid is a plot device for the plot. But yeah, they yeah. So there's a number of little nods in here. It's not a planet show. It's not a lot of there are There's a space battle, big space battle in it. But yeah. So yeah, that's what we did so far, and yeah. So I wanted to convey different things that were happening that worked in the story. The human side of giving robots humanoid personalities, and Draco Prime realizing, because it's called changing sparks and minds, like changing hearts and minds, changing sparks and minds. Title of this episode. And I wanted to have like Dragon Optimus have a crisis of conscience leading from the last episode, and he does, and it's in the script. He does do that. It's hard to say what Rob Powers as a writer actually was. I'm thinking that he likes battle scenarios, but doesn't like war. I'm thinking that his parents were hippies. That'd be my guess, and they didn't like war, and they served in Nam, or one of them did, and they just don't like war because of Nam. Not World War II, Nam. There's definitely Vietnam like stuff in there. And maybe he even knows some people that were in the first Gulf War, because it was 98. It was 98 when it was written. And the Gulf War was in earlier, like a couple of years earlier, 90, 91. This wouldn't be the new one. When he wrote the 2003 version, he added some bits here and there that reflected the 2003 after the terrorist, but very little of that, mostly in the 6th and 7th episode. Mainly, it's a 90s product of the 90s, and having them do that. Also, I thought it would be funny as a gag to have have there be a connection to the reproduction from the previous episode, and to have it be that it turns out that you think that Sure Shot and the bird they're shown being intimate, well, they're plastic, and you think that it's reversed, and that the female Autobot, because he calls her ma'am at couple of points in the story, was a bird. But it turns out they can switch gender, and it turns out he got pregnant. So she wasn't lying in the story. The bird wasn't lying. She wasn't. He got pregnant. But yeah, so he became the mother. So he became a female. And just to be even more bizarre, apparently, Nightbird and Night Racer. I mean, Night Racer and Windblade also procreated, or at least Windblade had not mentioned it, but had a kid. That's Roxy, named after Raksha with an I. They don't have much of a say in the story. They don't change the plot of the story. They're just there. I wanted to. This doesn't turn this into a sappy story. It's still dark and messed up. It just happens to include, like, these Minicon kid things. But it's still not for children. They are robots. They're little robots. So, yeah. Little robots. And also, they imply in the story that What's-His-Face is related to Night Racer. The dragons, related to Night Racer. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's the review of as we wrap this up. Yeah. So episode 5. Have fun.
Okay, there's another night beat shot. Instead of reshooting all of... We don't need to reshoot all of anything, but this is another making of and pickup. 17th. This is just a close-up of Night Beat. It's mainly an extreme close-up, really. Not showing my reflection in the window. Okay. It only happened once on the dailies, so this is just this one scene where his reflection is showing, and I'm rolling in on it. I think his little armor things were up further that shot, but make it match, sort of. So I pieced together the dailies, and this is yet some more making. Add this to the 17th footage, I guess, today. These are actually pickups, real pickups, not like last time where they were part of the show. These were 2 pickup scenes, crane guy and the other guy. I don't mind the crane guy looking up once or twice, but he was doing it the whole time because I didn't notice that his head was all... I don't think anybody else is that messed up, but if there is something horrible in there, I don't think so. I watched the other dailies and they were good. The switching back and forth, it seems to work. You don't want to do this as just them, like a comic book, just one guy and then editing it together, one guy dubbing it, over dubbing it, because that worked so well with Doolittle and over dubbing it. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, why did they? I don't know, but in my movie, it's different. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. You're watching 5th episode of Corrosion. And interestingly enough, if we show the hook for tonight's episode as 3 minutes, we will give away a major plot point. So we can't show the very beginning, first 3 minutes, as the 3-minute preview. It gives away too much. So I don't know what we're going to show for the preview. It's going to be something after that, because, yeah, we can't show you that scene. It gives away the big reveal. You have to watch the episode. Anyway, so Corrosion War, will that end? Okay, it is, what is it, the 17th? 17th? 17th or 18th, somewhere around there. Yeah, it's making up. Oh, yeah. So the earlier footage is him on the mothership, and this is him on the... No, the earlier footage is him during... Well, this is the new footage. Some of that earlier footage is probably him temporarily on the other ship. Well, this is the war footage because I got the right backdrop and the right sidewall there on the starboard sidewall. So there he is, looking right into the camera. In case you're wondering, there's a screw up during right now. The background did not match the visual. The character. So, visual different. So, visual was different. So I had to redo the hoist in the shot with the correct backdrop, because otherwise it looks really funny. So it's a slightly corrected backdrop. But since this is an uptake reel, it doesn't count as a blooper because it's just a different version of the same shot done again. I mean, it's not funny. It's just there. It's technically an outtake. So yeah, the second version of all the robot is good. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So that's, yeah. So here we are on the 17th, and we put it together. Yeah. '17th. Friday the 17th pickup scenes. We are a little late that day actually getting this out, but that's considering the last one, which was incredible. Okay, this is a pickup scene. There's no dialogue, so it's just the robot, the visual of the robot. His head was turned up during the battle scene the entire time. He had like 2 or 3 lines They're not very many. So we're going to take this footage, graft it into that other footage. So this is a visual of him, and you can just do whatever you want with it. Just do several seconds of him just sitting there, and you can do stuff. I'll move him a little bit. Indeed. Let us hope Nightbeat and Rewind can come up with something. Indeed. Let us hope Rewind and Nightbeat can come up with something. I'll turn him this way a little bit. Maybe they're here for police or Trickstar, likely. Maybe... so maybe they'll head for police or Trickstar, likely. Maybe they'll head for... maybe they'll head for police or Trickstar, likely. Maybe they'll head for police or Captain Star, likely. Tabby Star. That'd be funny. Maybe they'll head for police or Tabby Star, likely. Really? No! Back up a little on so his head, a little space up there. Really? Come on. We're nearing the ship. Let us discuss this person. He was a plant. We got him on board Vengeance after we placed a tracer on him. Does that mean something? Excellent. Page 236. Page 236. There, and hail them. That's easy enough to remember. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm supposed to be out here. It's sort of an inspection. The gravity pods are almost ready, and we'll be ready to do a test run. The gravity pods are almost ready for a test run. We just have to shunt the energy. So,